Excellency President Sisi. We'll now move to Federal Chancellor Olaf Scholz. We know that under your leadership, Germany has been spearheading net zero solutions, and green hydrogen and hydrogen being one component in the bigger picture also during your G7 presidency. So over to you, Federal Chancellor.
President Sisi, Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to thank the Egyptian presidency for initiating this roundtable, which I'm glad to co-chair with you, President Sisi. We are here to talk about one of the most important technologies for a climate-neutral world, green hydrogen. Green hydrogen is the key to decarbonizing our economies, especially for hard-to-electrify sectors, such as steel production, the chemical industry, heavy shipping, and aviation. And it will also serve as a driver for more jobs, sustainable local development, and prosperity. As one of the first industrialized countries in the world, Germany is aiming for climate neutrality by 2045. In the European Union, we are seeking to attain this goal by 2050. To reach it, we will invest massively in renewable energies, also to produce green hydrogen. According to the Repower EU package, by 2030, we want to produce 10 million tons of it within the EU and import another 10 million tons from abroad. So my first message to you is green hydrogen is not some distant future fantasy, it is happening now. We are currently also expanding our energy and import partnerships all over the world. And I would like to underline that we are seeking partnerships at eye level. Our goal is to build sustainable hydrogen value chains that help expand the local production of renewable energy and lead to a just and sustainable social-ecological transformation. The Middle East and North Africa have a great potential to become significant suppliers because of their abundant resources for renewable energy and their proximity to European markets. My second message is, in order to ensure that the hydrogen revolution succeeds, we are building a functioning global market. We are accelerating research and development and industrial scale production for green hydrogen. Of course, green hydrogen is still an infant industry. Its production is currently too cost-intensive compared to fossil fuels. There's also a chicken and egg dilemma of supply and demand, where market actors block each other, waiting for the other to move. Green hydrogen producers are ready to invest massively, but they require long-term offtake agreements. And steel factories or chemical plants, as potential consumers, must be sure they will receive sufficient and competitive supplies before they invest in innovative technologies and adjust their production processes. This makes a strong case for government action. During our current G7 presidency, we therefore agreed on a hydrogen action pact to accelerate the market ramp-up of low-carbon and renewable hydrogen and derivatives. That is exactly what we are doing in Germany right now. We are doubling our plans for domestic production of green hydrogen from 5 gigawatt to 10 gigawatt electrolyzer capacity by 2030. This will only meet 1/3 of the expected demand. The majority needs to come from abroad. We support building green hydrogen supply chains outside of Europe. Our double auction scheme, H2 Global, offers long-term offtake agreements at a fixed price for non-EU countries. We plan to invest more than 4 billion euro. The first tenders will be launched soon. I'm proud to say that last week the German government gave the final go-ahead for the first tendering process, which will start right after COP. In addition, we are accelerating the implementation of international green hydrogen projects and support the market ramp-up of green hydrogen and power-to-X applications in developing and emerging economies in close cooperation with the private sector. Our PTX funds for insurance provide investment cost grants to leverage loan financing for green hydrogen projects outside of the EU. And we already working with partner countries such as Brazil, Morocco, South Africa, and Tunisia to develop national regulatory frameworks and build local capacities around the green hydrogen value chain. So my third message is we are serious about green hydrogen, and we are willing to work with all of you to pool our strength and needs when it comes to its industrial use. Climate neutrality is not just a goal of some, but of all of us. Green hydrogen is essential to reach it. COP27 is a good opportunity to demonstrate development to date in both the renewable energy and green hydrogen ramp-ups and discuss ways forward. Thank you for your participation today. I'm very much looking forward to our discussion.
Thank you so much, Federal Chancellor. Thank you for your and Germany's leadership in the transition to a net zero economy. We have been in a situation where we had, especially in Europe, to diversify very fast, and maybe this could be a good segue into the President of the European Commission, Madam Ursula von der Leyen. Diversification and accelerating the green transition, I guess, is top on your agenda, and green hydrogen might be an important component in this. So, Madam President.
Thank you so much indeed. First of all, I want to thank you, Mr. President, and you, Mr. Chancellor, for this roundtable, the invitation to the roundtable. It is absolutely the right topic at the right time, because I think what we see the year 2022, there are tectonic changes in the energy market. It has to do, of course, with the war that Russia unleashed against Ukraine. 8 months ago, the war started, and since then we've seen skyrocketing prices for fossil fuels. The driver for that is the fact that Russia has cut 80% of the pipeline gas to the European Union. You must know that before the war, Russia was the biggest supplier of fossil fuel energy worldwide, and the European Union was the biggest customer. These days are over. And what we did is we diversified to trusted partners. We did a lot of saving, minus 15%, but the most important is acceleration, scaling up in renewable energy. And that's why this high-level roundtable is so on the spot today. And I do not want to focus on the European domestic elements. The Chancellor has already rightly so described our goals in the European Union for green hydrogen. We have a huge investment package domestically for, we call it Repower EU, 300 billion. But I want to focus on what we're doing abroad. And here you must see this whole energy demand that was once from Russia is now shifting, if we do it right, into the global south, because the demand should go into renewable energy, clean energy. Every kilowatt hour of renewable energy that we produce is not only good for the climate, but it's also good for our independence and our security of supply. And that's why this moment is so decisive, to look at the global south. You have the resources in abundance, wind and sun. What is necessary is the investment and the infrastructure. And that's where we have to team up. And therefore we created the investment package Global Gateway, 300 billion. 150 billion of those are devoted to Africa. And a big emphasis is on renewable energy. So again, if we do it right, right now, we have the investment offensive now in clean, green hydrogen. During this COP, we're signing hydrogen partnerships with Egypt, with Kazakhstan, with Namibia, for example. And very important is, yes, there is public money, but we also, of course, need the engagement of the private sector. Because the idea is, for a true partnership that is at eyes level, that the technology goes to the Global South, that the skills are developed in the Global South. That's important. Of course, we invest in the infrastructure, the interconnectors, pipelines that have to be hydrogen ready, you name it. But important is that it is not a one-way, but a joint endeavor that we are engaging in together. So my message is here. Thank you very much for this very timely, high-level roundtable. It's the moment where we have to decide whether we will be locked in fossil fuels, that's really dangerous, or whether we leapfrog forward into the renewables, and there green hydrogen is one of the key energy sources. Many thanks.
Thank you, Madam President, and also for underlining one of the beauties of the renewables is that they're leading to substantial fundamental deglobalization of energy. So when Egypt has built out so much renewables, one only relies for that sector then on its own energy production. Let me turn then to Prime Minister Alexander De Croo from Belgium. I know Belgium is also in the middle of these challenges, but hydrogen is also has a big economic upside and potential in your country. So let's hear from Prime Minister De Croo.
Yes, thank you. Well, first of all, Mr. President, Mr. Chancellor, thank you for organizing this event. You asked us to be very precise on solutions. So first of all, why is green hydrogen such an important topic? Well, first of all, because we want to keep industrial activity in Europe. And there's a big part of that industrial activity which is what we call hard to abate compared to CO2 emissions, and using their hydrogen is a very important element of what we call feedstock. The energy discussion is more and more also a security discussion. More than ever, the last months we've seen that. And yes, as European continent, we have been too dependent on fossil fuels and in certain countries related to fossil fuels. Now, some people in Europe say, well, we have to be self-sufficient and we have to be less reliant on outside Europe. I don't agree with that. I think that this moment proves that we need to remain open to the world. And we are the biggest trading bloc in the world as Europeans, and we are trading with the whole world, and we should continue trading. But of course, in a more diversified way. And that brings me to the things that we need to do is we build partnerships, and Mr. President, you mentioned the one we did on the Global Green Hydrogen Forum. We have other partnerships with your country as well on hydrogen ports. We have it with Namibia, with Oman. We're building a multitude of partnerships, and I think that is the way forward, is to be extremely diversified in the sources that we have. And that's the goal of a summit like this. I know that there is some criticism on the COP summits, but honestly, there is only one place in the world where we can make progress. And how do we make progress on these topics? That's by doing it together, by bringing things to the table, by bringing our brightest minds to the table, by bringing our off-takers to the table, and having a meeting here with the civil society and the private sector. What do we bring to the table? Belgium is a hub. It's a political hub, obviously, but it's also an energy hub. We are one of the main ports of entry into the European continent, into highly industrialized regions such as Germany, such as the Netherlands, such as France. And we have this ambition of being a hub and being a reliable hub in providing supply of energy. I see this evolving in a highly complex, highly layered network of energy where we will be experimenting, and some of the experiments will work and some maybe will not work. But the more layered we are and the more diversified we are, I think the more stable we are, and the better we can guarantee the role that we should play as a European continent, and that is a partner to the rest of the world, a partner in investment, a partner in prosperity, and a partner in trade. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Prime Minister, and thank you also for the important role you and Belgium is playing here. And all the speakers has also been so much sticking to the time, so this is for inspiration also for the following speakers, because with that we can hear more voices. So the plan now, with also the support of the the co-chairs of the meeting, is that I'll take one more of the prime ministers. Then I think we should go to Fatih Birol from IEA to hear what is really the potential, what do we really need to do, and maybe then 2-3 business voices, and then we'll go back to also to open up the floor. And from now on, the contributions would be no longer than 2 minutes. So if you see that I'm getting a little bit active up here, it's a sign for landing beautifully. So I'll do one more Prime Minister before Fatih Birol. I'll do Andrej Plenković, Croatia. Andrej, and then Mr. Birol.
Thank you very much, Borge, Mr. President, Chancellor. Thank you for this initiative, and also thanks to Ursula for outlining the framework of the European Union's policy approach, both internally, given the context of Russia's aggression to Ukraine, but also externally. I will, within the time frame, just say 3 points that regard Croatia's view on the decarbonization, but also on our strategy, which we have adopted regarding hydrogen until 2050. This was our clear objective, to use hydrogen as a transitional energy source. And we have, together with our friends in Slovenia and the northern Italian regions, started a joint project called the Northern Adriatic Hydrogen Valley, in order to show the example of a cross-border cooperation that can help us especially produce the green hydrogen, unlike the 3 others who are less favorable. And in that respect, we expect that this project will reach a production level of 5,000 tons per year. This is a joint endeavor with 34 partners, 6 of them coming from my country, and I think it can serve as a very good example also for transfer of technology and the improvement of infrastructure in other parts of the world, especially in Africa. Thank you, Borge.
Thank you very much. So I really like to focus here on being practical. I don't know how you feel, Fatih Birol, the Director General of IEA. You had a busy year, and a lot is at stake here.
Thank you very much, Mr. Brande. President Sisi, Chancellor Scholz, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, it's a great honor to be with you here today. So, dear colleagues, first I wanted to tell you that when I look at all the numbers, energy numbers in the world, this is my daily job, I can assure you that our world is in the middle of the first truly global energy crisis. We have never ever witnessed an energy crisis of this depth and of this complexity. And our energy world has changed, and has changed for decades to come. So the question is today in front of us, whether or not this energy crisis is going to slow down or accelerate the clean energy transitions. When we look at the numbers, the answer is very clear. This current energy crisis is an additional driver of accelerating clean energy transitions. And why it is happening? Why many countries are responding with a lot of cash on the table for clean energy transitions. It is not only or simply driven by climate commitments. There are 3 drivers. 1, energy security. Today in Europe, we are seeing a major push for renewable energies, and main driver is not climate change. It is the energy security. So the first driver is energy security. Second driver is climate commitments, and the third driver I think this is very important, industrial policies of the countries. Countries do not want to be behind in terms of clean, new energy technologies and industries. As a result, these three things coming together, energy security concerns, climate commitments, and industrial policies, it is a very powerful combination. And we are seeing today, many governments are putting real money, capital on the table. The Inflation Reduction Act, game-changing in terms of hydrogen tax credits. Madam President mentioned the Repower EU. In Japan, green transformation of Japan, they are putting huge amount of real money on the table. And many developing countries are looking what kind of strategies they can put in the table in order to increase the trade in terms of hydrogen. And Egypt is a very good example. And I should mention that Egypt made many great achievements in energy, and one of them is being hydrogen ready. So in my view, to finish, Mr. Brande, a new global energy economy is emerging. It is the renewables, it is electric cars, it is hydrogen, it is nuclear in some countries and others. And it is very important that the countries around this table, companies around this table, position themselves for the next chapter which is started, and this crisis we are seeing is a catalyst for the new emerging clean energy economy in the next years to come.
Thank you for that very realistic picture. The deepest energy crisis we have been facing is deeper than the oil and gas crisis in '72, also in your view then, I understand, Fatih. Okay, with that, quite dim, grim picture, let me take a couple of voices from business, and then I'll go back to a couple of head of states and governments. Andrew Forrest, you're the executive chairman of Fortescue and have been talking about green hydrogen before many even knew what it was about. Is it going to be a revolution in the hydrogen field now?
Thank you. Yes, it certainly will be. In a nutshell, President Sisi, great to see you again. Chancellor Scholz, we actually haven't met, but I know your entire ecosystem super well. We have a very large agreement emerging with E.ON for 5 billion tonnes. President Sisi, we're literally working minutes, if not hours away from having an agreement with your country so we can supply you to. This is the ecosystem we see in front of us. We're the largest green hydrogen developer in the world. We've worked out how we can make green hydrogen economically. We can transport it as a synthetic aviation, synthetic ammonia, we can transport it as synthetic LNG, and soon we'll be able to support it, I'm sure, as pure hydrogen. But I think you should trust what someone does more than what they say. I challenge every chief executive in the world, and certainly starting here in this room, that if you think you cannot step beyond fossil fuels, you either have a vested interest which is overriding the interests of your children and your planet, or you're lazy. It's one of those two. We're in the mining industry. We burn through 1 billion litres of diesel a year, but by 26, 27 this year, Mr. President, Mr. Chancellor, we will switch off our oil, we'll switch off our gas, we'll switch off our diesel, we'll go entirely beyond fossil fuels. A world without pollution, a quieter and peaceful world is upon us. We just have to put the interests of our children above our own personal short-sighted interest, and we just have to do the work. And if we cannot find the solutions ourselves, can I just leave you with this? Like I did, I asked my workforce, and they came up with the solutions. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you. Very impressive, turning it off in a few years. I'll do a few more business voices as a basis of what is practically happening, but 1.5 minutes, please. Let me then go to Christian Brook, Siemens Energy. Then I'll go to Terry Pilskog, CEO Skatek. I'll also do Brad Smith, but 1.5 minutes, and I'll also do Nassef Savares. So, please. Mr. Brok.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mr. President. Dear Chancellor, thank you very much for having this round table. As we heard, hydrogen will be indispensable for the decarbonization of the industry. The question is for us now, how do we get there in a world which is still driven in terms of business by hydrocarbons? So it requires an extra effort to make green hydrogen projects fly and work. But it is possible, and obviously bringing together what was mentioned before, access to low-cost financing, take-off guarantees on the products, on the green products, and then really look at optimum boundary conditions in the places where we realize these projects in terms of access to renewable energy, in terms of logistics to transport the product. What we want to do then with these projects is obviously build up a supply chain and recycling of materials which makes this industry commercialized. I think this is the task that we as an industry have to take up. And I have to say, in this regard, obviously, I see 700 projects at the moment globally, and the focus must be really on the ones which are most likely. Egypt, for me, is a prime example to turn energy industry around. We have been part of it partly, and by decisive action, a lot of elements in terms of driving electricity and energy has been happening here in this country. And I can only echo really this pledge for the corridor between North Africa and Europe, the strategic corridor of projects to realize green hydrogen. It is necessary. It's also necessary to have a plannable track record of multiple projects coming one after the other to build up this commercialized supply chain and industry. We are at the moment building the first 3 gigawatt factory in Berlin for electrolyzers hydrogen modules. And we would be more than happy to put down the assembly down here in Egypt if the projects are really coming and having this connection also in terms of creating workforces in Germany as well as in Egypt and bring the things together and make it a just transition. What I would obviously push always for is let's get on this corridor of multiple projects one after the others which allows to build up an industry. Technology-wise, it is difficult but possible. Thank you.
Thank you very much to Siemens Energy. I'll go to Terje Pilskog, CEO of Scatec, and then to Brad Smith after that. I know, Mr. Pilskog, that Scatec is making also a big announcement together with President Sisi just after this, so if it's not too secret, you could also maybe share a little bit of a curtain raiser with us.
Thank you, Mr. Brende, and Mr. President, Mr. Chancellor, thank you both for your leadership in this aspect. I want to start with saying that the future is here now. The technology when it comes to green hydrogen is available. The funding is available. It is about ensuring that we unlock the most and the best projects that has already been said here in terms of drive this growth going forward. So, as we know, 60 to 70% of the cost of green hydrogen comes from renewable energy. So it is then obvious, I think, for all of us that we have to go to where renewable energy is most affordable, lowest cost, and cheapest. And that is in Africa, that is in Northern Africa, it's in the Middle East, and therefore there is a huge opportunity for this region to be a driver and become a hub within the green hydrogen and potentially also green ammonia space. Here we have the resource, we have the space available to build out renewable energy, we have the proximity to big offtake markets, and we also have proximity to key shipping lanes and green corridors that can be built out. So all the elements are available in order to drive this. And Mr. Brende, as you said, it is possible today, and it's together with our partners, it's together with our commercial partners, here also represented by OCI, and it's with the support from the Egyptian government, but also with support from EU. We are launching the first green hydrogen project in Egypt, delivering green hydrogen to Fertiglobe that they will use in their ammonia facility to produce green ammonia. So it's, we are having that launch a bit later, and that shows that it is possible to make it happen. But what is again unlocking this, and here I have to give tribute to Fertiglobe and OCI, what is unlocking this is off-takers that are willing to take a long-term perspective on offtake, and that is required to make this a success. Thank you.
And thank you for sharing this good news with us. I'm coming back to also OCAI after Brad Smith. So you're sitting next to each other, so very practical. Brad Smith and then Mr. Nassef Sawiris.
Well, if you're asking yourself why Microsoft is at a meeting about green hydrogen, I think the answer is to illustrate a point that Prime Minister Decroux made. This progress is incredibly multifaceted and layered in what it requires. So in a sense, our role as a company is in two categories, and I think you see a lot of other businesses in similar categories. The first is as a purchaser and user of green hydrogen. As you know, we're building data centers across Europe, across the global south. They're energy intensive. In 2020, we set a record. We ran data center servers for 48 consecutive hours using hydrogen fuel cells. 2 years later, this year, we set a new record that we installed a 3 megawatt generator, backup generator, running entirely on green hydrogen. These are records made to be broken, and we'll break them ourselves many times over as we're now investing in new green hydrogen-based electrical generation with a company like Caterpillar, new forms of storage, so we go to scale, etc. Finally, almost everything that you see here will depend on data analytics and artificial intelligence, etc., because we're going to be seeing a world where green hydrogen gets combined with solar and wind, and power utilities are going to need to be able to mix and match. So many parts of the economy need to come together. I think the public policies that you all have described are really leading the way, but that does create the opportunity for companies like ours to then lean in and support it. So thank you.
Thank you, Brad. I'll then move to OCI. Ahmed El-Houshi was the right name. So Ahmed, floor is yours.
Yeah, thank you very much, moderator. I'd like to thank President Sisi as well as Chancellor Scholz for organizing this roundtable, and congratulations to Egypt and Belgium for creating the Global Renewable Hydrogen Forum with President Sisi and Prime Minister Decroux. We think it's a great forum to bring together voices on the public and private side to solve these issues and actually take action. OCI, we're a top 3 nitrogen fertilizer and ammonia player globally, as well as methanol, top 5, and leader in biomethanol. And it's relevant, methanol and ammonia, for the hydrogen discussion because today 50% of hydrogen goes into methanol and ammonia, and as Mr. Forrester said, that could be the efficient way to move hydrogen between countries. For myself, it's quite important. I'm an Egyptian citizen, and I'm very proud of what Terry just discussed here, which is this project we've worked with the Ministry of Electricity, the Prime Minister, as well as the Presidency in Egypt to move forward and actually start commissioning a green hydrogen PEM electrolysis plant here in Egypt. But we'd like to do more, as we've said. Our main message would be inaction versus action is really important. You know, it's easy with, I think, 4% of announced projects having FID'd to make an announcement, but we'd actually like to take action and move forward so that we can make the mistakes, we can learn the lessons, and we can improve the technology to grow green and low-carbon hydrogen. For us, we think that the IRA is a game changer, absolutely, but one thing that's nice about the IRA is also it's quite simple. I mean, you know that if you bring a project forward, putting the dollars aside, you know if you bring a project forward, you're going to get funded if you achieve XYZ parameters. So I think that's important for developing nations globally. For example, Egypt, with 97% of the people living on 3% of the land, which has land, renewable electricity, is access to global shipping corridors, to work with developed countries, programs like H2 Global, which we're hoping to rely on as part of the offtake, as well as support from other developed nations, so that we can help those that, with subsidies aside, would be the advantaged location for any green hydrogen in the future. And as those subsidies go away in a few decades, we think that Egypt is one of the key areas, Algeria, another place where we have operations, Africa in general. So we just need that jump start here with those funds, with the support to allow for these offtakes so that we can take those risks. We're not going to uncover all the uncertainties, but we can just reduce some uncertainties regulatory-wise to take those jumps and make those investments. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. El. We're now moving into a segment of 2-3 political leaders, and I'm also now opening the floor. If you then want the floor, you will have to put up your flag like that. I do have now President of Mauritania, Prime Minister of Georgia, and then Prime Minister of Bulgaria. President, sorry. But I also remind that the 2 minutes apply for the political leaders. So like the business leaders know, we're sticking to 2 minutes, so please be good role models. President of Mauritania and then Prime Minister of Georgia.
أود في البداية أن أشكر فخامة الرئيس عبد الفتاح السيسي رئيس جمهورية مصر العربية الشقيقة ومعالي المستشار الألماني على تنظيم هذه الطاولة المستديرة المهمة جدا. وأذكر بأننا قد أجمعنا خلال قمة التغير المناخي كوب 26 بغلاسكو على كون الهيدروجين الأخضر يشكل عنصرا أساسا في عملية التحول الطاقوي، لأنه يمثل مصدرا لطاقة نظيفة وموثوقة يمكن أن تعوض الطاقات الأحفورية في كل المجالات، وبصفة خاصة في استخدامها في النقل والكهرباء والصناعات، وبالأخص صناعة السلك. وتتوفر بلادنا موريتانيا على إمكانات كبيرة على مستوى المصادر المتجددة للطاقة. قدرت من طرف الوكالة الدولية للطاقات المتجددة بأكثر من 2400 جيجا وات، منها 500 قابلة للتطوير مباشرة فورا. ويوجد الجزء الأكبر من هذه المصادر في منطقة قريبة من الساحل الأطلسي ذات كثافة سكانية ضعيفة، وتشكل في نفس الوقت إحدى المناطق القلائل في العالم التي تتمتع بموارد متجددة من شمس ورياح على مدار السنة دائما، وتجعل منها هذه الخصائص النادرة إحدى المناطق ذات المقومات الكبرى لإنتاج الهيدروجين الأخضر ومشتقاته. وعملا على استغلال هذه الإمكانيات وضعنا خارطة طريق لتطوير الهيدروجين الأخضر تتضمن إنشاء إطار مؤسسي وتشريعي لهذا القطاع الجديد وتطوير المصادر البشرية الضرورية له. وتهدف هذه خارطة الطريق هذه إلى جعل بلادنا منتجا ومصدرا رائدا للهيدروجين الأخضر ومشتقاته، وإلى المساهمة في تلبية الطلب العالمي المتزايد لإيقاف استخدام الكربون في قطاعات النقل والمعادن، وكذلك إلى تسريع الولوج الشامل لمواطنينا للخدمات الأساسية من كهرباء وماء صالح للشرب. وسيساهم تنفيذها طبعا إن شاء الله في تحقيق نمو اقتصادي استثنائي وخلق عشرات آلاف فرص العمل والتفادي انبعاثات كميات كبيرة من غازات الاحتباس. وفي سياق تنفيذ هذه الخارطة وقعت بلادنا على عدة اتفاقيات إطارية مع مطورين دوليين لإقامة مشاريع تمكن من إنتاج 2,500,000 طن 2,5 مليون طن من الهيدروجين الأخضر و14,5 مليون طن من الأمونياك الأخضر في السنة. وكان آخر هذه الاتفاقيات الموقعة تم اليوم توقيعها مع بريتش بتروليوم. إن تطوير الهيدروجين الأخضر يوفر فرصة استثنائية لخفض انبعاثات الكربون في الدول النامية ولتسريع تنمية القارة الإفريقية التي تتوفر على موارد شمسية هائلة. ولن يتأتى يوما هذا الوضوح والعائد الكبير على الكوكب والتنمية الإفريقية فرصة كالتي يشكلها استغلال الهيدروجين الأخضر. وتصميما منا على ترقية استغلال هذا المصدر الطاقوي شكلنا مع 7 دول إفريقية للهيدروجين الأخضر منها جمهورية مصر. شكلنا مع هذه الدول يعني كونا اتصالا وتجمعنا علاقات ونناقش دائما للبحث عن الأمثل الطرق لاستغلال هذه الطاقة اللي موجودة في بلداننا. وإننا لمدركون أنه لا زال يعترض سبيل استغلال الهيدروجين الأخضر عقبات كثيرة تتعلق أساسا بحل المشاكل التكنولوجية ونقل الهيدروجين الأخضر لمسافات طويلة وتنمية سوق الهيدروجين الأخضر وغير ذلك من التحديات القائمة. ولذا فنحن بحاجة ماسة للشراكات الفنية والاستثمارات الكبيرة ونعول في ذلك على المهتمين بهذا الموضوع. وشكرا.
Shukran, thank you so much, Mr. President. Suddenly we have a much longer list and we have limited time, so I will have to be stricter with the next speaker. So I will, after 2 minutes, I'll do like this on the mic, and that's a clear indication that one has to wrap up. Sorry about that, but we want also a lot of speakers to have the ability to contribute. So apologies in advance. So let me then go to Prime Minister of Georgia, Mr. Garbishvili, and then the President of Bulgaria.
Thank you, Mr. Brande. First of all, thank you very much, Mr. President Sisi and Chancellor Scholz for organizing this very important roundtable meeting. Very briefly, I want to tell you about Georgia. We're in the process of transforming Georgia's energy sector, and we're investing a lot in clean and sustainable energy. Georgia is one of the top countries in terms of water resources per capita. It has one of the cleanest grids. About 85% of the country's total electricity is generated from renewable sources. Right now we use only 25% of our potential, hydro potential. Additionally, Georgia has a significant potential of wind, geothermal, and solar energy, which can act as a great addition to hydropower generation. We also, in July 22 this year, we have created Hydrogen Energy Development Promotion Committee with the mandate of supporting the development and uptake of green hydrogen. Current geopolitical context has made Georgia's key strategic location even more prominent, and Georgia can play an important role when it comes to diversification of transport routes and energy supply to Europe. For this reason, we have come up with an idea of laying the underwater electricity transmission cable in the Black Sea, connecting Georgia and Romania. This strategic project entails creation of transit opportunities, back-to-back trade options of green renewable energy between the EU and the South Caucasus region. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you so much, Mr. Prime Minister, President of Bulgaria. Then I'll go to President of Chad and then to President of Lithuania, and then we take some other voices. So, President.
Thank you. First of all, I would like to extend my sincere appreciation to President Sisi and Chancellor Scholz for organizing this timely roundtable. In Bulgaria, we have been working in some main directions. First of all, to develop, based on our science achievements, and to acquire affordable and reliable technologies for producing green hydrogen. Second, to activate our business to support by investing in green hydrogen. Third, to transform our industry and transportation to work on green hydrogen. And very important, to store and to transport the produced hydrogen. We have already established a consortium called Beeline Green Hydrogen Valley with the potential of producing more than 10 million tons of green hydrogen per year. But the key word here is cooperation. Cooperation between the countries, our scientists, our business. I was amazed visiting Germany by the invitation of Chancellor Scholz this summer and visiting Hamburg, the heart of green hydrogen in Germany, I was leading also a delegation from the Bulgarian Academy of Science, and we established cooperation between our universities, knowing that Germany has been working on developing jet fuel based on green hydrogen. So it will be an enormous achievement, talking about pollution and ecology. And of course, something very important, we need to take full advantage of the natural resources we have, like Georgia, but Bulgaria has brilliant resources, natural resources to produce green hydrogen, talking about sun, waters, management of waters, and something very important is Ursula here, or she left, pushing us to abandon coal energy. We have 35% nuclear, 50% coal. We decided for recultivation of the land of open lignite mines, not to convert them back to agriculture, but to install more than 15 gigawatts of solars. The same place we have been exploring underground caves and spaces. They're enormous as capacity, and we are going to store produced green hydrogen, and we are going to work on saving and storing energy. Whoever is able to store energy in the future, he holds the key for the future. So, and I'd like to congratulate President Sisi for working with Greece on a very smart project. He has plenty of free land for solars, and there is a project for 3 gigawatts of underwater cables coming to Greece, to Bulgaria, and we are ready to, using compressed air and water we have, to store your energy on the daily basis and to balance the electricity systems of the region. I think this is very important. And finally, Bulgaria so far has been known as transit country for Russian gas. We have the pipelines going through Bulgaria to the heart of Europe. It is now much easier avoiding all the cumbersome legal and environmental procedures. We can use the pipes of gas and next to them install the future pipes for green hydrogen produced in Egypt, in Bulgaria, in Greece, to the heart of Europe. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'll go then to President Kebsabo of Chad, and I'll then after go to President Levtis from Latvia, and then I'll after that go to Governor Koike of Tokyo, former also Environment Minister of Japan.
Merci beaucoup. Je voudrais saluer le président Sisi qui a fait une belle démonstration de ce que l'Égypte a pu faire dans ce domaine. Mais lorsque j'ai écouté tout le monde ici, j'ai eu honte de moi-même, honte de parler, parce que je ne sais pas quelle performance je peux vous dire. Mais j'ai décidé de parler pour que vous ayez honte de toutes les performances que vous faites, alors que sur d'autres continents, il y en a encore qui sont presque en train de ramper, quand vous courez déjà. Alors, c'est une interpellation tout simplement que je voudrais lancer. Des pays comme les nôtres ont un taux d'accès à l'électricité de moins de 10%, alors que vous êtes déjà à des niveaux extrêmement élevés. Est-ce qu'on peut continuer comme ça, alors qu'un pays comme le Tchad a un potentiel énergétique très, très, très énorme pour le solaire, pour l'éolienne, en biomasse et tout. Donc, j'ai entendu parler ici du développement vert, et on a dit qu'il y a un financement pour cela. Où est-il? Est-ce qu'on peut continuer d'accepter que beaucoup de pays, notamment africains dans le monde, soient à un niveau extrêmement bas, ne peuvent pas se développer parce qu'ils n'ont pas d'énergie, alors que d'autres en ont à redistribuer? Donc mon propos, tout simplement, c'est de vous dire qu'il faut qu'on s'interpelle, qu'on soit fier de ce qu'on fait, c'est vrai, mais qu'on se dise qu'il y a des populations entières, et elles sont nombreuses dans le monde, qui sont encore à un niveau très très bas, excessivement bas, et qui posent un problème de développement au monde entier. Je vous remercie.
Thank you, Mr. President, for those strong words.
Je suis le Premier ministre, pas le Président.
Yeah. Okay. So, We'll then move to President Leptis of Latvia, and as I said, then to Governor Kuike of Tokyo.
The Chairman, the President Sisi, Chancellor Scholz, it's absolutely clear that we should move to the new energy system, which is also based, including hydrogen. The hydrogen industry consists of two steps. The first step is to develop enough capacities of renewable energy like wind or solar energy, and then the second step is to produce from the renewed energy sources hydrogen. And in the same time we are developing also the technology how to produce hydrogen more effectively. So we are in principle in the first step to develop capacities for renewable energies. And I absolutely agree with the Prime Minister of Belgium, who said that we should remain in Europe as open economies, and we can build a network, energy network between Europe and Africa, North Africa, Egypt, also Chad, other countries, so that because they have possibilities to build renewable energy from solar energy, and then of course this would be also diversification of our energy supply chains. In Latvia, we are well situated, relatively well situated, because we are our share of renewable energy in energy mix is approximately the half already, and we are now investing massively in wind energy, also solar energy, but there is also, together with Estonia, we are developing for Northern Europe a huge project of common Estonian-Latvian offshore wind producing capacities on the border between Latvia and Estonia. So, and from these sources we can also develop further hydrogen for our industries. So, to conclude, I would say that Latvia is a relatively small economy, but in the situation of transformation of economy, this could be an advantage, because we are more flexible and more fast than maybe bigger economies in the situation of transformation. Our goals are in line with European goals, which were explained by Madame von der Leyen, to reduce emissions and to produce more energy from renewable sources, but we are doing always a little bit more. And this is our policy and our contribution to the common European policy. But as Prime Minister of Belgium said, it should not remain only in Europe. It should be a new network for the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President. As I said, I'll go to Governor Kuike, governor of the largest city in the world, more than 20 million people, but also manage the Olympics there under tough circumstances. Then I'll suggest to go after Governor Kuike. I'll go next door to then Vanik Glemarak, Executive Director, GCF, a Global Climate Fund. Acronyms difficult sometimes. Governor Kuike.
Thank you very much. Your Excellencies, President Sisi of Egypt and Chancellor Scholz of Germany, and especially thank you very much for Brande, because we were counterparts when we were working as the Minister of the Environment at that time. And thank you very much for this opportunity to speak here today as a local government leader. I can truly agree to the COP27 title, Climate Implementation Summit, there's truly no time to lose when it comes to climate change. With population of 14 million and a GDP of $700 billion, and annual budget is almost same as the one of Sweden, Turkey is also accelerating actions under the banner Time to Act. In order to help achieve the goal of net zero emissions by 2050, the Tokyo Metropolitan Government is currently promoting the shift to renewable energy, and next month we are representing a bill to the Metropolitan Assembly that will make it mandatory for newly built houses to install solar panel systems, and Tokyo will be the very first one in Japan to introduce this. As Japan is known as Bilad al-Shams al-Mushrika, so this we cannot waste the solar power. Now, at the same time, we will make green hydrogen a key pillar supporting the realization of a carbon-neutral society. To that end, in the lead-up to 2030, we are building the infrastructure for its use, and this includes lowering costs and building up best practices. We will continue supporting the building of hydrogen stations and expanding the use of hydrogen even more to include not just passenger cars and buses, but also commercial vehicles such as fuel cell trucks and even boats. And just recently in Tokyo, I took a ride on the world's first hydrogen-powered ferry boat. In the district where the Olympic and Paralympic Village was located, initiatives we have implemented, including laying pipelines to supply hydrogen. And countries around the world are launching projects one after another to produce green hydrogen using their wealth of renewable energies. In order to receive large quantities of this green hydrogen from abroad, we will draw up a plan to build a supply chain network, including trunk lines, with the aim to expand the use of hydrogen as a community energy source. So last month, Tokyo held the Time to Act Hydrogen Forum, and with the aim to spread the global use of green hydrogen. And we are also promoting partnerships such as with the world's cities and pioneering companies. For climate security, the last one. Let us all work together to promote the use of green hydrogen and build a sustainable world. Shukran jazilan. Thank you very much.
Arigato, thank you very much. Thank you for your leadership. I will be much stricter now with the rest. We had very few speakers from big cities, but the next speakers will have to stick to 1.5 minutes. Let me go to Mr. Glamarak, GCF, Global Climate Fund.
Thank you very much, Mr. Brandy. First of all, I would like to deeply thank President Sisi and Chancellor Scholz for these kind invitations to participate in this high-level roundtable. Hydrogen is an increasingly certain part of our future global energy system. Its capacity to decarbonize hard-to-abate sectors such as iron, steel, heavy roads, transport, shipping, and to store energy make it critical for any kind of plan to reach net zero emission by 2050. However, as mentioned by a number of speakers today, green hydrogen deployment is facing a number of policy, regulatory, technological, and market barriers that translate into high investment risk, high financing cost, and ultimately high production cost. there is a risk that we will not be able to deploy green hydrogen on time to limit global warming by 1 to 1.5 degrees Celsius by 2050 without a concerted effort. If we have learned one thing over the past 30 years in our fight against climate change, is that industrial and sectoral policies do work. The cost of a solar panel was $3.5 per watt in 2008. It was only 40 cents by 2018, thanks to industrial policies such as, for example, feed-in tariff, popularized and deployed at scale first by Germany in the early 90s. We have been able to double the installed capacity of solar energy every 2 years, and every 2 years we have been able to reduce the cost by 20%. We need a similar effort today for green hydrogen. The GCF will stand ready to join any kind of global international coalition from the public and the private sector to drive such an effort. We have already received a number of proposals from developing countries, and including formulation of green hydrogen plan, including developing the capacity for the self-management and operation of hydrogen, and de-risking first investment of hydrogen. And I hope that I will be able to submit to the board of the Green Climate Fund our first hydrogen investment next year. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I'll then go to Darrell Wilson, Executive Director of the Hydrogen Council, and then to Gerd Miller, Director General of UNIDO. And I'll just remind everyone, 1.5 minutes, because then I can facilitate for those that have asked for the floor, and we can end on time. We'll have the co-chairs also saying a few words at the end. So, Mr. Wilson.
Your Excellency, thanks for your leadership in this important area for quite some time now, and it's very gratifying as we see the word implementation behind you that today you will inaugurate a hydrogen project here in Egypt, a commissioning, I understand, with OCI. In this very rapidly moving segment of industry, it's important to always be clear what's stopping us now. And so I want to get right to the point that the main thing that's stopping us now is the demand offtake side of the equation. I had a discussion with one African nation this morning and the funders who are interested to fund that project, and I said to them, which of the risk profiles are you most concerned about? And they said, the demand offtake. What we need is very clear policy that puts a finger on where we want hydrogen to serve in our societies, and then to bring money and policy to actuate that demand. And when that happens, we will get that positive virtuous cycle that the gentleman was just sharing about that has happened in wind and solar. Let me just touch on a couple of other issues when it comes to trade between developing nations and the developed world. Very important that we understand the social and economic benefit that ought to flow from those nations that now will bring clean energy sources to bear. And I think there's already mention in the room today from Siemens Energy about the importance of investing in those source countries of energy and bringing technology and manufacturing capability to those countries so that they can participate in the benefits that they're bringing to society. And lastly, as we look at the trade in hydrogen, our recent report says that 2/3 of 600 million metric tons of hydrogen will be on the move by 2050. Very important that we have certification standards that are mutually recognized around the world so that we will have trade indeed. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'll then go to Gerd Miller, Director General for UNIDO, and after that I'll go to the Secretary General of IMO, Mr. Lim. I'll then go to Prime Minister of Tunisia, and then Prime Minister of Andorra. And I remind you about the 1.5 minutes. I'm not going to compromise on that. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Implement concrete solutions and projects. That was the message of President Sisi with his opening speech. And congratulations, you and Chancellor Scholz and the Belgian Prime Minister for this very important initiative. This is the foundation of the Green Hydrogen Forum. A global platform is being developed to exchange knowledge end-to-end technology worldwide. We need it worldwide, not in the European Union. And to define a global framework, Chancellor Scholz mentioned it, a global framework conditions for the hydrogen market. And UNIDO, we are the industrial agency and partner for Egypt and EU implementing this multi-stakeholder platform designed to facilitate large-scale deployments and renewable hydrogen. But let me tell you another very important point, looking to the African friends. UNIDO, we just organizing with the African Union the Summit of Industrialization in Africa, and there is still now no single project, hydrogen project planned in African countries. Of the 680 large-scale green hydrogen projects currently planned worldwide, only two are located in developing countries. And that is not the future. It must be our common goal to make sure developing countries and emerging economies have access to this potential of green hydrogen. And we must create green hydrogen trade corridors and fair value chains between the developing market economies and the industrialized countries. That must be the message of this COP27.
Thank you very much, Madam Prime Minister. Tunisia will then go to Andorra. We'll do also African Investment Bank, and then we have Demi Group. I think, sorry, I did a small mistake here. Before Madam Prime Minister will go to the International Maritime Organization. Apologies for that. Floor is yours, but you'll get half a minute extra for that. So you have 2 minutes, sir.
I'll be short. Thank you for the President of Egypt and the Chancellor of Germany for organizing this one. IMO is one of United Nations specialized agency for rulemaking for international shipping and the port industry. Hydrogen, we believe, one of the most promising future energy for international shipping, for ocean-going shipping particularly. IMO is developing, when it comes to decarbonization, we are developing policy, target the policy of the decarbonization shipping, at the same time developing technical requirement for shipping. So we want to give a policy certainty to member state and the industry. So we want to eliminate chicken egg game situation as much as possible to give a certainty. So this is the main target. And also we are working for the R&D for adaptation of hydrogen for international shipping. So we are looking forward hydrogen more commercially available before 2030 for the decarbonization journey for international shipping. It should end. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I think we're now doing well. We're focusing on implementation. The order now is, before I let the two co-chairs sum up, is the following. It's Prime Minister of Tunisia, Prime Minister of Andorra, then I'll go to AIIB, then I'll go to IRENA, and then I'll go to Demo Group. Are there anyone else that have asked for the floor that I haven't seen? Lithuania. So you will have then, Lithuania, the chance to sum up before the co-chair. So that's also a good position to be in. So, Madam Prime Minister.
شكرا. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. أود أن أشكر في البداية فخامة الرئيس عبد الفتاح السيسي لتنظيم هذه المائدة المستديرة. وأود أن أقول هنا أن تونس اعتمدت منوالا تنمويا جديد قائما على الانتقال الطاقي، وذلك بهدف تعزيز الأمن الطاقي وتحقيق نمو اقتصادي واجتماعي في إطار مقاربة مندمجة. وتنفيذا لذلك قمنا في تونس باتخاذ ثلة من الإجراءات ومنها الترفيع منذ أبريل 2022 في نسبة إنتاج الكهرباء من الطاقات المتجددة من 30% إلى 35% في أفق 2030. وفي هذا الصدد تم الإطلاق عدة من طلبات العروض جديدة لمشاريع إنتاج الكهرباء من الطاقات المتجددة في إطار نظام اللزمات. وأود أيضا أن أؤكد في هذا المسار أن الهيدروجين هو أولوية في الاستراتيجية الوطنية للطاقة في أفق 2035 التي نحن بصدد استكمالها. وعلى سبيل المثال نحن بعثنا مشاريع استراتيجية كبرى مندمجة، منها مشروع النقل الهيدروليكي للفوسفات الذي انطلقنا في إنجاز دراسته الأولية، وهو مشروع مندمج ومتكامل يتنزل في إطار شراكة بين القطاعين العام والخاص، وهو متكون من محطة لتحلية مياه البحر ومحطة لإنتاج الكهرباء من الطاقة الشمسية ومنشآت للتخزين ووحدة نموذجية لإنتاج الهيدروجين الأخضر بهدف تطوير الأمونياك الأخضر. ونأمل أن يحظى هذا المشروع بالمرافقة والدعم المالي في إطار التمويلات الخضراء لما سيحققه من قيمة مضافة على كل المستويات. وأخيرا أود أن يحظى مشروعنا ربط تونس بأوروبا عبر إيطاليا الذي يسمى الماد لنقل الكهرباء بكل الدعم خاصة من زملائنا من أوروبا، وهو ما سيمكن من مزيد تحقيق التكامل بين الضفتين للمتوسط. وشكرا جزيلا.
Thank you, Madam Prime Minister. Prime Minister of Andorra.
Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, Andorra has been working actively on the development of a more restrained and more sustainable energy model based on reduced demand, the implementation of more efficient systems, and an increase in the production of renewable energies, thus contributing to a fall in the overall emissions entering the atmosphere. In recent years, we have established the regulatory basis to increase and diversify national energy production while reducing vulnerability to the markets, improving the security of the supply, and strengthening our national sovereignty. Andorra has set itself the goal of doubling national electric production by 2030 and tripling it by 2050. And it is also working on reaching a percentage of no less than 75% of energies from renewable sources in relation to national electric production. With active public-private participation, it is hoped that these goals will be achieved through the energy plan, which establishes an urban reserve framework in those places that have been identified as having a high potential for the use of sources of renewable energy. Moreover, the progress we have made with our green taxation incentives has allowed us to create a green fund to facilitate the ecological transition and to ensure that the economic sectors that have the greatest impact on the environment are the main contributors to it. The introduction of a green tax through the establishment of a carbon price of 30 euros per ton allows us to move towards more sustainable mobility through free public transport by bus and through a program of subsidies for the acquisition of electrically propelled vehicles. At the same time, the Green Fund has also made it possible to finance a net program for energy efficiency and to foster the use of renewable energies in the building sector. Finally, the energy transition must take and is taking in Andorra the promotion of alternative energies into consideration. For this reason, we are already creating alliances that will allow us to identify the best ways to integrate hydrogen from the perspective of cooperation, especially with our neighboring territories, particularly France and Spain. Thank you very much.
Thank you. We'll then go to Mr. Jin, President of Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank, and after that to Irina, and then to Demo Group, and then to the President of Lithuania.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Egypt and Germany are the two important members of Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank. Our bank's hydrogen investment will be guided by an identified critical pathway for hydrogen commercialization and pursue a practical approach taking into consideration risks and objectives to maximize impact. First, AIIB will have a strong focus on the development of hydrogen technologies along the entire value chain to remove technological bottlenecks and reduce costs for green hydrogen production, transportation, and end use. Our bank had similar endeavors in the past by investing into the Neo Capital EVE1 fund, a venture capital fund focused on decarbonization and digitalization technologies in the transport and energy value chains. Second, support needs to be extended to scale up green hydrogen production in the most cost-effective locations. Our bank will tap into the diverse client base and develop suitable financing structures to de-risk projects. This may involve deployment of a mix of equities and loans, as well as mobilization of special funds and other grant resources from partners to lower the cost of capital. Third, we will assist efforts to roll out pilots in end-use applications with relatively high maturity, such as heavy land vehicles, heating, and industrial feedstock, thereby creating conditions for market formation and commercialization, both sovereign loans to support government-funded pilots and equity investment to enable the growth of pioneering private sector companies can be practical first steps to take. Thank you.
Chair, thank you very much. We'll go to Francesco Camara, Director General of IRENA, been very patient. Thank you very much. And then we'll go to Luc van den Bulke, CEO of Demo Group. So.
Thank you, Mr. Brandon, and thanks, Mr. President. Thank you, Mr. Chancellor, for having the International Renewable Energy here with you. And hydrogen is important. Yes, hydrogen is important. In our world energy transition outlook, we make clear that for meeting the Paris Agreement, we need to have at least 12% of final energy consumption by 2050 coming from hydrogen. And allow me to concentrate on this challenge, talking about the continent that is hosting us today, so Africa. I think this will never happen if we don't clarify exactly how the developed world and developing world are working together. I think that we have to rewrite, and I hope this COP will rewrite the way cooperation is understood and practiced. And in building this narrative, we want to make 3 points very fastly, okay? One is the infrastructure. Don't you think that this continent can go for green energy if we, the developed world, through the multilateral financial institutions, don't provide the infrastructure needed? And the infrastructure will not only the land infrastructure, the grid, means also the sea infrastructure. All this has to be working together, and this is a task that must be fulfilled if you want to get the result. Legal infrastructure. So the risk in investment means having the legal environment that is in place, means working on the financial regulations. Industrial policy, what does it mean work on mitigation in Africa? They have to 2% of emission. The problem how we have to work is on developing in the right way, or supporting the development of Africa in the right way. So as we mentioned, making the working on the supply chain will be vital for the industrial sector in Africa, and could be also help the Western world to decentralize their demand. Last, capacity building, capacity, I think institutional should be there, and I hope that institutional like Arena, you can count on us. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for those thoughtful comments. Luke Vandenbulke, CEO of Dema Group, floor is yours, and then we'll have President of Lithuania.
Thank you very much, Mr. President, Your Excellencies. We've been in offshore wind now for 20 years, and we've seen, as was mentioned before, prices drop by 80%. In those 20 years, we've installed 15 gigawatt of offshore wind in the same period, and it took 5 to 10 years of courageous countries to back up the first pioneering years. Now today we have about 5 gigawatt of projects, thanks to Your Excellency, in Egypt and in Oman, in green hydrogen coming up, and I think that we will go through the same 5 to 10 years of pioneering, and that means government-backed offtake by a number of offtake countries, and I would encourage more countries to do the same as Germany. Thank you, Chancellor, to have initiatives like H2 Global to really kickstart this industry. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that very important comment. 10 years ago, solar and wind was 7 to 10 times more expensive than today. Today, there's no subsidies needed. I think we can learn from that lesson. So, President Nauseda, sorry for keeping you waiting, but you're in a good stream now with President and the Chancellor. So, President Nauseda.
Sorry, Minister of Environment Nauseda couldn't come, but dear co-chairs, thank you for raising this issue. And I come from the region where energy security is on issue, and we have been one of the first countries to abandon Russian fossil fuels, the import of them, and our industries need competitiveness. And in 10 years, Europe will import half of its hydrogen, and half of it will be produced. So we would like to be seen as an import channel with Klaipėda port, which has a functioning LNG terminal for already 8 years and providing gas pipelines to Poland. We see that our capacity and demand will be around 4 terawatt hours in 8 years, and this is a big market for Global South also to produce, because currently the energy squeeze is huge, and we represent the energy squeeze of the whole Eastern Europe. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Minister. I'm now pleased to go back to the co-chairs. I think I'm supposed to go to the Chancellor Olaf Scholz first, and then President Sisi will finally wrap up. So what were your main takeaways from this discussion, Chancellor? Are we seeing big changes in these areas? Are you a little bit more optimistic after this discussion? Over to you.
Thank you. My expectation is that we really are at a turning point. If we hear about all the projects that were explained to us here, may it be government projects or may it be business projects, we could understand that this is now the time where hydrogen is becoming more important. We know about the technologies since 100 years. It's not really new. But now it is the time where we invest into it, scale it, and where we try to find a way how it could be cheaper produced as in the past. And all this is very promising. So let's just use the force of our debate and all the things we learned here to really start. And this is so important as an activity that happens in those countries where it is very easy to produce green hydrogen. They should make use of their opportunities. It is important for the business sector to invest in these countries and to do something with shipping. We heard about it, and something with how we get the hydrogen then in those countries where it will be imported. And that's important. Let's develop the technologies by the businesses, and let's use it in some other countries where hydrogen is imported, but sometimes also produced. So this will be a mixture. But now it should happen, and we all should invest trust in that the beginning is something for something great. Thank you.
Thank you so much, bringing down the price and make the production greener. Thank you very much, Chancellor. President Sisi, I hope you also found the discussion fruitful. Thank you for your leadership, and also congratulations on a very good start of the COP. And we hope it will continue that way. So, floor is yours, Mr. President.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اسمحوا لي ان انا اشكركم جميعا على النقاش وعلى الطرح اللي تم طرحه من الجميع، سواء كان من يعني من رؤساء او من رؤساء الوزارات او حتى من الشركات اللي كانت موجوده او من يعني الحقيقه كل اللي اتكلم ادانا فرصه وانا اتفق مع يعني معالي المستشار وفخامه المستشار بان هو الوقت ده وقت التنفيذ الحقيقي، وقت التنفيذ الحقيقي والاستعداد مش للمخاطره ولكن للتحرك الفعال والحاسم من اجل تنفيذ كل الكلام والنقاش اللي احنا اتكلمنا فيه واللي بنتكلم فيه من قبل كده. انا التقيت بكثير من رؤساء الشركات اللي موجوده دلوقتي على الطاوله هنا في مصر، وكان كلامي معاهم دايما ان احنا مستعدين نتحرك وبقوه، وده اللي انا عايز اقوله مش بس على مصر، على مصر وعلى الدول وعلى الكلام المهم اللي اتقال على افريقيا تحديدا. احنا مستعدين نتحرك وبسرعه حتى نلبي التخطيط والفكر المستقبلي لانتاج الهيدروجين والطاقه المتجدده وبسرعه، لان ده هيخدم حاجتين، هيخدم الدول الناميه اللي احنا بنتكلم عليها ونديها فرصه انها تتقدم، وايضا موضوع المناخ اللي احنا حريصين على ان احنا نتحرك فيه وبسرعه. يعني المنتدى اللي احنا بنتكلم عليه اللي مع المنتدى العالمي لانتاج الهيدروجين، اتمنى ان كل الدول اللي موجوده تنضم لنا في هذا المجال ونتحرك وبسرعه دون خوف على الفلوس، يعني على الاموال، لان طبعا الدراسات بتقول ان التكنولوجيا لسه في بدايتها يمكن، لكن ممكن نخطئ وبعدين نصلح اخطائنا فيما بعد، او يعني تباعا بعد كده. فلنتحرك كل ما افضتم به. اشكركم جزيلا وفلننفذ ما نتكلم عنه. شكرا جزيلا.
Shukran, thank you. The meeting is adjourned.